The Atlanta police chief has resigned and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department launched an investigation following the deaths of two black men in separate incidents as protesters continue to demonstrate against systemic racism across the U.S. and in some major cities around the world.
Atlanta Police Chief Erica Shields is immediately stepping down following the death of Rayshard Brooks, a 27-year-old man who was shot by an officer while fleeing during a struggle at a Wendy's drive-thru late Friday night, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
The shooting occurred after Brooks failed a sobriety test. Police deployed a stun gun and a struggle ensued, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation says. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms has called for the termination of the police officer who shot Brooks and for another officer to be placed on administrative duty.
Meanwhile, in California, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department launched an investigation into the death of 24-year-old Robert Fuller, a black man found hanging from a tree near City Hall in Palmdale. Local officials initially described the death as an apparent suicide.
Authorities faced backlash at a Friday press conference from a crowd demanding a more thorough investigation as widespread criticism of officials' handling of the case spread on social media.
In recent years, Palmdale has been the site of KKK flyers and noose displays. Officials must reveal whether he was lynched, tweeted Kristen Clark, president and executive director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law.
More protesters took to the streets across the United States and the world Saturday in the wake of the death of George Floyd, a black man who was killed as a white Minneapolis police officer held his knee into Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes.
Our live blog will be updated throughout the day. For first in the morning updates, sign up for the daily briefing.
A closer look at some recent developments.
10 members of a South Florida Police Department SWAT team have resigned from the team, citing safety concerns and local officials' disdain for the unit. The 8 officers and 2 sergeants resigned from the team, but did not resign from the Hallandale Beach Police Department.
The risk of carrying out our duties in this capacity is no longer acceptable to us and our families, the officers wrote in the memo, dated June 9.
The officers also said they were outraged that command staff had recently joined protesters and other officials in taking a knee as demonstrators called for the case of Howard Bowie to be reopened. Bowie, a 34-year-old black man, was killed in 2014 by Hallandale Beach's SWAT team as it carried out a search warrant and raided his home.
This lack of support by members of the command staff is crippling to the agency and its rank and file, the memo said.
Associated Press.
The family of a Las Vegas police officer who was shot June 1 during a protest on the Las Vegas Strip says he is on a ventilator and paralyzed from the neck down.
The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Dispatch Twitter account shared the update from Shay McAlonis's family on Saturday with their permission. The post said McAlonis, 29, would be transferred to a spine rehabilitation center.
The man accused of shooting McAlonis, Edgar Samanigo, 20, is being held on $1 million bail.
During the hearing, a prosecutor said Samanigo, of Las Vegas, deliberately shot McAlonis during a protest centering on the death of George Floyd.
Peggy Santoro, Reno Gazette-Journal.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear pressed a button on a lifting rig Saturday that hoisted the 5-ton marble statue of Jefferson Davis off a pedestal in the Capitol Rotunda in Frankfort where it had stood for 84 years.
After calling for its removal and urging the Historic Properties Advisory Commission to act, today I pressed the button to bring it down, Beshear tweeted. Now, every child who walks into their capital feels welcome. Today we took a step forward for the betterment of every single Kentuckian.
Davis, former president of the Confederacy, was placed in the rotunda in 1936 at the urging of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, which commissioned the 12-foot marble statue.
Beshear has said many African Americans visiting their capital saw it as a symbol that they don't matter, a symbol of the enslavement of their ancestors and a symbol of the continued systematic racism that we see in so many parts of our society.
Joining Beshear were 2 leading members of his administration, J. Michael Brown and Latasha Buckner, who are black.
Joe Sonka, Louisville Courier-Journal.
President Donald Trump saluted the service and sacrifice of West Point's graduating class on Saturday, encouraging them to stand strong for the cause of freedom and equality at a time of discord and division.
In remarks that emphasized unity, Trump told the 1,100 graduating cadets that what has historically made the U.S. unique is the durability of its institutions against the passions and prejudices of the moment.
When times are turbulent, when the road is rough, what matters most is that which is permanent, timeless, enduring and eternal, he said.
Trump's address, his first at West Point, comes as his own relations with the military has grown strained and racial tensions and domestic unrest have roiled the nation.
Minority cadets, in a confidential survey obtained by USA Today, say they face blatant and subtle discrimination at the nation's elite training ground for Army officers. The posting of racist videos in April by their classmates prompted the survey.
The graduation ceremony itself was unconventional, a reflection of the challenges of the coronavirus pandemic. Cadets wearing white face masks marched onto an expansive parade field and watched the ceremony from folding chairs spaced 6 feet apart. No handshakes were allowed. Parents, relatives and friends weren't allowed to attend.
Michael Collins and Peter D. Kramer.
Fox News has removed a digitally altered and misleading collage after a report from the Seattle Times called attention to the mashup of pictures taken from different days in Seattle's controversial Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
An editor's note was added to multiple Fox News stories Saturday stating that the network had removed a photo collage which included multiple scenes from Seattle's Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
The photos were included in a package of stories Friday about the zone, which demonstrators took over after Seattle police left the East Precinct. For most of the day, Fox's website featured an image of a man standing with a military-style rifle in front of what appeared to be a smashed retail storefront, the Times said.
The image was actually a composite of photos taken by different photographers on different days, one from as early as May 30, of shattered windows. Another combined the gunman photo with yet another image, making it look as if the armed man was standing in front of a sign declaring, "You are now entering Free Cap Hill."
In an emailed statement, a Fox News spokeswoman said, "We have replaced our photo illustration with the clearly delineated images of a gunman and a shattered storefront, both of which were taken this week in Seattle's Autonomous Zone."
Doug Stanglin, Joel Shannon.
The U.S. Embassy in Seoul hoisted a Black Lives Matter banner in front of its building Saturday in what it said was a show of solidarity with fellow Americans, grieving and peacefully protesting to demand positive change.
On its Twitter feed, the embassy posted a photo of the banner, hanging near the U.S. flag, with an accompanying text in Korean and English.
Our #Black Lives Matter banner shows our support for the fight against racial injustice and police brutality as we strive to be a more inclusive and just society, the embassy said.
Doug Stanglin.
Paris police fired tear gas Saturday and blocked demonstrators from marching through the city to protest police brutality and racial injustice.
Earlier, the largely black crowd shouted at a group of white extreme-right activists who had climbed a building and unfurled a huge banner denouncing anti-white racism. Others tried to tear it down. A police official told the Associated Press the decision was made to stop the march because of a nationwide ban on gatherings of more than 10 people to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. In London, a group of right-wing activists gathered around the statue of wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill and the Cenotaph War Memorial, which were both boarded up Friday to protect them from vandalism. A Black Lives Matter group there had called off a demonstration, saying the presence of the counter-protesters would make it unsafe. Some anti-racism demonstrators gathered in smaller numbers at Hyde Park. Hundreds of protesters turned out despite strict police restrictions and warnings to stay home to contain the coronavirus. The Associated Press. A federal judge has ordered Seattle police to temporarily stop using tear gas, pepper spray and flash bang devices to break up largely peaceful protests, a victory for groups who say authorities have overreacted to recent demonstrations over police brutality and racial injustice. The liberal city with a lengthy history of massive frequent protests has taken hits from all sides, from demonstrators, some city officials, the president and now a judge, over its response to recent protests. Those on the right say the mayor and police chief aren't being tough enough on protesters who have taken over part of a neighborhood near downtown Seattle, while those on the left say police tactics have been far too harsh.
U.S. District Judge Richard Jones' ruling, siding with a Black Lives Matter group that sued the city, halts the use of violent police tactics for 2 weeks, though demonstrations this week have been calm.
The judge said weapons like tear gas and pepper spray fail to target any single agitator or criminal, and they are especially problematic during the coronavirus pandemic.
Mayor Jenny Durkan and Police Chief Carmen Best have apologized to peaceful protesters who were subjected to chemical weapons. But Best has said some demonstrators violently targeted police, throwing objects and ignoring orders to disperse.
Governor Andrew Cuomo signed into a law Friday a package of police reforms in New York that gives the public access to police disciplinary records and bans police chokeholds.
The measures also include giving the state attorney general's office the power in law to investigate when a person dies in police custody or in an encounter with police. It also makes it illegal for an individual to make a 911 report solely on race.
Cuomo was joined at the signing by the state legislative leaders, civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton and the mothers of men killed by police in New York City.
The measures make New York the first state in the nation to enact broad policing reforms in the wake of Floyd's death.
Cuomo also signed an executive order that will require every municipality and police force in the state to develop a plan that reinvents and modernizes police strategies and programs. If the departments do not implement the changes by April 1, they will lose state funding, the Democratic governor said.
He has raised the bar with how we deal with policing with this executive order, Sharpton said of the move. He has gone even beyond my expectations.
Joseph Spector, Albany Bureau.
Cook County, Illinois Sheriff Tom Dart was moving to temporarily strip as many as 7 deputies of their police powers after the county's public defender complained that deputies had apparently posted insulting and threatening comments online following a march in support of Black Lives Matter, his spokesman said Friday.
Spokesman Matt Wahlberg said the investigation to identify the deputies and then move to dedeputize those linked to the posts comes a day after Dart's office launched an internal probe in response to a letter from Cook County Public Defender Amy Campanelli.
Campanelli informed Dart, whose office runs the jail, that the posts had appeared online after about 200 people, including many public defenders, participated in a demonstration Monday at the county jail in Chicago.
Campanelli cited a post that reads, "Bring in the fire hoses and horses, this is not a protest."
Contributing, the Associated Press.